President Trump speaking earlier this morning, I believe, or it might have been yesterday, with Fox and Friends, and talking about, he's there to talk about the war, but then he cares so much about what's going on in California. He asks the host there, can I divert for a second? Because he's paying attention to what's happening in California. We all are. We're watching votes be counted days, weeks after the election, and you just know how it's going to end. Hans von Spakovsky knows a little bit about that, and he's with us once again, Advancing American Freedom Senior Legal Fellow, also a former FEC Commissioner, and with us here again on the Annie Frey Show. Hans, welcome back. Good for you to be with us.
Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, everybody's been watching California, which, as I've said before, probably has the worst run election system of any state in the country.
Talk to me about what California does. Obviously they have the jungle primary, which means everybody runs. They take the top two.
Right.
It doesn't matter, one from each party. They take the top two. That's an ordinary. But talk to me about how California processes elections.
Right. And the reason why it takes so long. First of all, they mail a ballot out to every registered voter in the state. That's about 16 million registered voters. And yet we know their voter rolls are very inaccurate. They don't do a good job of finding people who have died and taking them off. They don't keep up with people moving. You talk to anybody in LA lives in an apartment or condo, and they'll tell you that they've probably received ballots for people who don't live there anymore.
Yeah.
But the reason it takes so long is that, first of all, it takes much longer to process a mail-in ballot than it does ballots that are just put into a ballot box and instantly counted in a computer scanner. Second, they count ballots that come in for 7 days after Election Day. And, we'll say, oh, yeah, well, it's got to be postmarked by Election Day. No, under the law, if there's no postmark on it or it's blurry and they can't read it, they go by whatever date is written by the voter inside. But the other reason it takes so long is if they open a ballot and there's a problem, let's say the voter forgot to sign it, they don't just toss it out. They have a 22-day cure period. In other words, they have to contact the voter, and the voter has 22 days to come in and fix the problem. Plus, when they get provisional ballots, that's people who say, oh, well, actually, I'm registered to vote, but I didn't get a ballot. I need to be able to vote. They get what's called a provisional ballot. Every single one of those has to be individually investigated, and they have to decide whether the person's vote should count. And we're talking about, in California, probably hundreds of thousands of provisional ballots. All of that causes huge problems. Plus, like I said, they do stupid things, like they automatically register you to vote when you go in for a driver's license. They don't ask you, are you eligible? Do you want to? They just register you. And since they give driver's licenses to aliens, legal and illegal, I have no doubt that there are many, many aliens who are registered and voting in the state of California. And California officials, they want it that way. They don't want those people detected and caught.
I want to ask you, Hans, off the top of my head, and I know that you're an expert when it comes to the Supreme Court and the cases that are in front of them, but I believe there's a case that the Supreme Court is looking at that's coming out of Illinois, and Congressman Bost, that is a friend of the show and has a lot of district in our listening area. Isn't that Supreme Court case challenging counting ballots after Election Day that continue to come in? Is that what that current case is about?
Well, there were two cases before the court. One was by Representative Bost. He challenged the Illinois law, and the lower court didn't even get to the merits. They said, oh, you're a candidate. You don't have standing to even challenge it. Now, the Supreme Court has already issued a decision overruling that and saying, no, he's got the right to challenge that law, but they sent it back to the lower courts. However, there's a second case before the court's been argued. We're actually waiting for a decision. I was hoping it might come out today.
Yeah.
That one challenged Mississippi's law, which counts ballots for 5 days after Election Day. And a lower court, actually the Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, said you can't do that. That violates the federal law that sets federal election day for the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. So we're waiting for that decision. If the Supreme Court comes out and agrees with what the lower court said, that will toss out these extended deadlines all over the country, including in Illinois and California.
Yes. Oh, man, please, Lord have mercy on the state of the land of Lincoln. Hans von Spakovsky with us right now. I did want to ask you about the Save America Act. I don't know if you saw the story about Susan Collins changing her vote to get us to 50 on the Save America Act. But this is where, Hans, my mortal brain here, it starts to get into the weeds. This is all procedural, and we're like voting to get to the chance to maybe vote for it, but then filibuster, and J.D. Vance is hanging out somewhere in a corner waiting to make a big deal. Like, can you explain to me when Susan Collins changed her vote in a vote-a-rama on the Save America Act, and we're seeing in our Twitter feeds, our X feeds, that the Save America Act has taken a step closer to possibly becoming law. How big of a step? And also, how do you feel about the Save America Act?
Well, the Save America Act is an act that should get passed. And thank goodness she changed her vote, but it may be too late. What she was changing her vote on was what they've been trying to do to get around the filibuster, and remember, 60 votes is what it takes to overcome a filibuster. What they were trying to do to get around it was to attach the SAVE Act to the Budget Reconciliation Act, because the Reconciliation Acts, because it puts together money to run the government, can't be filibustered. There's a special rule. All it takes is 51 votes for a reconciliation bill to go through. So she changed her vote to allow it to be attached to a reconciliation bill, but that hasn't happened yet. So yeah, she changed her vote, but the SAVE Act still hasn't gotten through the Senate.
So we're still waiting on that. We're waiting on would this be the third reconciliation bill that would go through, maybe, if I heard that correctly? Is that possible that we might see that happening? And if Susan Collins also votes yes in favor of being able to attach it to a reconciliation bill, does that automatically indicate that she would vote in favor of the Save America Act or the reconciliation bill that might be put in place to actually get the thing through?
No, I certainly can't guarantee that, because she changed her mind. She voted against it. Now she voted for it. Will she vote against it again? I don't know the answer to that. But that is a really important issue, because, as I said, particularly in places like California, we know aliens are registering and voting, and one of the only ways to stop that is to pass this federal law that says you have to provide proof of citizenship when you register to vote.
Well, gosh, I hope it happens. If it doesn't happen now, I don't know that it will happen. But it was encouraging to see Susan Collins, who we only really hear these days in conjunction with Graham Plattner in Maine, step into that moment and give a yay vote for that. Hans, we appreciate you. We know that June's going to be busy with some Supreme Court rulings here coming up, so stay tuned. We'll be reaching out to you as soon as those come out as well. We're thankful for your time.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.